Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and we are down here in these amazing, fantastic, stupendous studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Mead Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, look, if I seem a little bit more hyped today, I've got a reason, okay? Because the lady I have here is responsible for making coffee. And I'm just saying, there's probably a few things I should stay away from. Coffee might be one of them, but that's all right because I love some coffee. I've got news for you. This lady's story is going to be inspirational, motivational. It's going to make you feel like whatever it is that you're going through right now is going to give you hope that you can push forward, and whatever dreams you set for yourself, they can in fact be possible. I was fortunate enough to come across this young lady's her paths at a speech. We did a speech together with the Hope Center. If you guys follow along, I know many of you do. I'm heavily involved with a youth mentoring group called the Hope Center here in the Mid-South. And it's just all about mentoring children and giving them, better paths, better choices, ideas about what is possible for them as they move forward in this crazy world that we live in. Well, this young lady is inspirational. When I heard her speak, and we had not met prior to this, of course, y'all know me. I'm going to go up and be like, hey, my name's Coach Camp. Would you like to come on the Coach Camp Motivate Coach Camp show? Of course she did. So I do not want to take another second. I want to bring her in. We're going to talk all about where she's come from, what's brought her to where she is today. So please, at this time, welcome with me, Miss Tina Tatum. How are you, young lady?
Great. Thanks, Coach. How are you today? I
am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming out.
Absolutely.
You know what? Whenever you text me and ask me about coffee, I'm like, I've got coffee, but I should probably go ahead and get some more coffee.
Yeah, there you go.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong. Never too much coffee.
So look, there's so many things we could start out with, but let's just start from the very beginning, the roots. Okay. So where did you grow up?
Right here in DeSoto County. Okay. My entire life. Yep.
Right before the show, yeah.
I won't tell you how many years, but
that's all right.
A few more than you, but yeah, here in DeSoto County, Horn Lake alumni. We live here in Hernando now, so my permanent address has always been DeSoto County. I mean, I've traveled the nation with various jobs, but always called DeSoto County home.
Wow, and I did realize that you went to Horn Lake. We talked about that before the show. Surprising, we didn't cross paths in high school.
I know.
I was pretty loud. Not much has changed other than wrinkles and gray hair. That's about it. I was probably the same person in high school.
I'm drastically not the same person. But
that's okay. That's all right. So when we're going through high school, do you have brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of four.
Okay.
So my sister's 12 years older than I, and then I have a 10 and an 8-year-old, older than mine. So I kind of grew up as, not only the youngest, but almost like an only child because they were all out of the house.
What was the next closest in age?
8 years.
8 years. Yeah, you kind of were. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, my daughter, she's 12 years younger than her next closest sibling.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So she has really grown up as an only child.
Right.
And then,
much.
And so then being the youngest too, you probably could juggle knives and mom would be like, oh, Tina, stop it. You're going to be fine. Just put those knives down.
Yeah, I got away. Well, I didn't really get away with as much because they had way more time on their hands. My parents were retired somewhat. So I was under the microscope. So I got caught at everything, but it didn't stop me. So.
Yeah. Well, and strong-willed does play into being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get there. You got to be stubborn. You got to be fearless at times.
Absolutely.
So all those things play into it.
A little crazy.
A little bit. I'm going to say, look, that is a common thread. As I have spoke to so many entrepreneurs now is, you got to be a little crazy to just go for it.
Yeah.
Because it's scary. There's so many things that could not work out.
Exactly.
And we're going to get to all that. Yeah. So coming out of high school, what were you thinking about doing?
That's a really good question. So it's so funny because my dad was I'm first generation, like college degree and educated in my family, all hardworking blue collar workers. My dad really provided well for us, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I literally remember sitting on the edge of my bed crying.
How old were you at that time?
17.
Wow.
I remember crying, thinking I felt so pressured to know what I wanted to do with my life. But I didn't know. Yeah. Because they didn't know how to guide me and direct me with all that. You've got to think this is 1989 or 1988.
Yeah.
I was on the end of my bed. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my dad's like, we had a family friend. Well, he's an accountant. You ought to go to accounting school. So started out with a degree in accounting, lasted one semester.
Where were you going? Northwest?
Yes. Yeah. Just to try to figure it out. And I was like, there is no way I can sit behind a desk and crunch numbers. I absolutely hate it. So I pay people to do that for me today. So, we collaborate our strengths and delegate our weaknesses. So
Amen.
I delegate or pay in delegation to have those things done now. So I love to talk to people, never met a stranger. So I ended up going into marketing, sales and marketing, which was a degree then. And then I finished out at through Cornell University and some classes at Memphis State at the time. I almost said University of Memphis, but it'll always
it's
be Memphis State.
I graduated from there, so it's Memphis State in my world too.
Yeah, so sales and marketing. So just background mostly in marketing. So
yeah, I've got news for you. It's funny to hear you say that at 17 you had such panic on you about what to do and what to become, because there has been a shift in that age range of the feeling and need to become something. And this is not one of those, when back in my day, it's not like that thing, but I teach at college. I'm a professor. So a lot of my age range is 19 to 25, respectively. And they talk about how they're very comfortable. In fact, it's this is where the studies have shown 26 is now the new 18. So like at 26, 27, people are really starting to feel the pressure if they haven't started down that path. But straight out the box, I'm from your generation.
Right.
And you did have that feeling, that sense that you have to kind of have something to go toward coming out of high school.
Well, and especially because in that time of my life, my identity was not rooted in Christ. I did not know who I was. So it was so it was real difficult for me to know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, without it feeling like it needed to be something like a title, that I needed to be something like be an accountant, to be something. And, I have found over the years that identity-based performance, when we identify in our job or in our role, when those performances decline, and they will, we lose our identity. So it's so important that we're established and we help young people, or even, I don't care if you're 53 like I am, or if you're, 18, it's important to have our identity established, because, money comes and goes. I mean, if God forbid, but if coffee ever went away, I would not lose who I am. Right, because I'm established in my identity. So coffee is part of my life, and I love to get to serve this community. But if for some reason I didn't one day, I'm a child of the King. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter. So much going on and so much to do in this world other than just a career path.
Girl, I'm going to tell you something. We got to be careful, because you going to get me stirred up, and I'm going to be excited. And then people are going to be, oh, wow, that's catching on fire down at SRP Studios. Everything you just said resonates with me on such high levels. The fact that you recognize, and let me ask you this before I go down that road. When did you recognize that your identity needed to be something beyond a title? At what age? Do you remember? Was there a moment?
I do.
Share that.
27.
Wow.
I was 27. So, our cerebral cortex isn't completely developed until we're 28. So understanding long-term consequences for short-term behavior really doesn't kick in. So that's why we see people, maybe coming to know the Lord or making better decisions in life happens in the later 20s going into their 30s. Men finally grow up, right?
Sorry. No, that's not always true, but it's probably a better chance.
Yeah, it's a better
I've got some 50-year-old friends. I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah.
But late bloomers.
But I'll be honest, because it's just who I am. I don't care if I'm on a podcast or if I'm at Walmart. Like when I came to know the Lord, I came out of 11 years of alcohol and drug addiction, failed marriage, and stuff like that. When I just came to the end of myself, and I was like, what is this all about? I had been in 10 years of food service marketing, working at Kraft Foods and Philip Morris Company. I traveled, the United States, negotiating major contracts with Sara Lee and Tyson and things like that. Was at the top of my career path, honestly, in my late 20s in that industry. And I just loved it. But when your world comes crumbling down and you're thinking, where is everyone, right? When you're at home alone, when you're sitting by yourself, are you comfortable just being with yourself?
Man, that's
so
that was so good.
So that was around 27, and we're not here to talk about my whole conversion story, my whole transformation in that, but it was vital. It was very critical that I began to say, okay, now what am I going to do with my life that has impact over than just a title and climbing the corporate ladder?
I can so relate to so many things right there, just for the fact, and this is where I was about to go a while ago, but I wanted to find out if you had that moment, that turn moment, because sometimes we do actually evolve into something different or better, but we don't recognize that change happening immediately. Yeah. But then some of us do have that pinpoint moment.
Oh, it was absolutely pinpoint.
And so for me, I'll be honest with you, I think that so much of what you just said does apply to me as well, as far as like, being a child of God. So I was saved at 7. I grew up in a family that we were Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. It was Little House on the Prairie. We had about 15 people in the thing, and up on the back wall, it showed offerings and budget and all that on the wall. You know what I'm talking about?
Like
You've seen them.
Like the hymns that
That's
were getting
it.
sung.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so all of that was there for me growing up. And and it was Walls, Mississippi. So small town. And so much of that became a part of my foundation. So what you're saying, where you recognize that turn moment. For me, what I realized was it was such a layer of foundation that gave me the ability to identify that my life is bigger than me. It wasn't about me. And as I grew older and became more involved, whether it was in the military or then on the fire department, then at school, I realized that my impact on other people was a role that I had to play because of what was given to me. I had, well, the way I saw it was God's favor was on me. He was like, look, I want you to be a disciple in a way. I want you to be a vessel. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make tons of mistakes. Own those mistakes. Show other people that you can move forward. Stay positive. Stay focused. And that kind of started to grow. So that's where Coach Camp comes into play. Awesome. And then when I come across people like yourself, it's just, it validates some of that because sometimes we can all be human and get in our own head and be like, am I doing it the right way?
Right.
Am I really having the impact I hope I'm having?
Is there a right way?
It's hard to know, right?
But there is the way, but is there a right way?
That's a good point. And so for me, I started seeing that it's just about the purpose. It's not about the placement. The placement is a title that people want to give you.
Right.
And they see validation. If you're like the president of something, like, well, you're the such and such. What is your purpose?
Right.
You know, and when you live beyond that moment, that title moment, you have an impact that is going to go on forever, and you're going to impact the next generation.
Yeah, that's so encouraging to me, especially when we've raised kids in the church. You know what I mean? And that should be really a point of hope for a lot of people. That foundation, when it's put in you, you know, when that seed of the word's gotten in you, and you've been raised or you've been taught how to serve or give in your community or whatever, you know, it all comes back. So that's so encouraging to hear that.
Absolutely. So Tina, here you are. You're growing up. You go through some rough times. What was that age range that you were hitting those bumps in the road?
I would say 16 to 26, 17 to 27.
So it did happen right then. And at 27, you make the turn.
Right.
At that point in time in your life, what were you doing for a career at that moment, 27?
At that very moment, I was still working for Philip Morris Companies, Kraft Food Service. I was their regional marketing manager, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, doing major trade shows, working with, you know, executive chefs to negotiating contracts like Sara Lee, Tyson, different, you know, any type of food service organization back in the day, because that was back in the day, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have all the digital marketing and all the things like that. So like I helped with menu design, preparation, you know, advertising in the restaurants. I also trained our sales staff on products and how to present and how to go out and, you know, do those sales pitches and things like that.
I want to blend something here, if I may. This conversation came up at school the other day, and I never really thought about it in this context, but it made sense to me that Gen Xers that remember their past but were able to kind of adapt to where they are and to their future are some of the best equipped in a generation. We were talking about this because you came from, just like myself, a time where digital, everything wasn't there. It wasn't at the touch of a fingertip. We had to kind of build the person that we were through a different avenue.
Right.
And then we came into this career we came into this time in life where things are like that. So we understand how hard it was then, and to apply that to where we are now, I think it does give Gen Xers an advantage in a lot of areas that people probably don't realize.
Well, we certainly talk about evolution. I mean, you know, you've got to evolve.
You've got to move.
And you can't keep your feet, you know, planted in the same place all the time for approach. Now, the message doesn't change, and the content and the character of what we do doesn't change, but how we go to market, how we approach people, you know, learning to become all things to all people, like learning how to reach. I mean, when I started my career, there was no internet.
No.
I just had this conversation the other day. Like, we had an intranet where we could email in the office.
Right.
But learning, and then I remember when Google came out, you know, amazing that. No idea. No smartphone. No cell phones at all.
No cell phones.
I mean, I thank God there was no social media when I was in high school.
Me too. I'm with you, actually. It would have been a distraction. Plus, there would be videos out there I wouldn't be able to get away from. I would be like, oh, well, I'm not running for public office ever. That's out there now. So, yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's good and bad to it. I mean, social media recently helped me find my dog that had ran away. So
it's good.
There's some spots, but overall, I'm with you. I'm glad that I did not grow up in that era. There's a lot of reasons for that, too. So whenever you make this change at 27, it's a personal, you know, like it's a life change for you internally, but how does that affect you externally? So where does your direction go from there?
Right. So this is a fun story. So in 1999, I met, married in this order, and then got pregnant. Right. All in 1999. It was so crazy to my husband, Alan.
You were partying like it was 1999.
I didn't know if they would know that Prince song, but we had it at our wedding. It was fun. But God had a purpose in that because it's a whole nother podcast. Matter of fact, you probably want to have my husband on one day to tell his background with FBI and everything. So he ended up losing his career for some choices that he did then. So we went through a hard time with addiction and divorce and walking with the Lord thinking, oh, this is great, 2 or 3 years. And then it was like, what do they say, from the pot to the frying pan or something like that, and then I was pregnant. So I had my daughter, Faith Marie. So we went through some really difficult times personally. But through all of that, when I realized that externals can come and go, right? Money shifts all the time. There's not a lack of money in the world, right?
No.
There's not a lack of resources in the world. It's a matter of stewardship and understanding how money flows and how money circulates. But when money's not your God, when career path is not your goal at the end of the day, it is to just be obedient and do what you can do for what's right. Sometimes all you can do is what's right in front of you. So at that point, I started, left Kraft Foods in 1999 because I thought, well, hey, we probably need to get to know each other a little bit better.
This was after marriage.
This was after marriage.
It's like, well, let's just get, what's your favorite color?
Yeah, right, exactly. It was right before marriage. But anyway, I left that career path because he had a really great career path. Well, then he lost that career path. And so long story short, what do I know to do? So this is about recreating yourself again. So I always love to cook. My family's from Southern Louisiana. We just grew up in the kitchen. And with my background in food service, I worked with a lot of caterers, chefs, and all that. So we launched Abundance Catering and Event Planning. So ran that for about 10 years while I was in and out of starting my real second career path, which was at Medtronic Spinal and Biologics. So I was there for 20 years. Worked for them. Only just retired 3 years ago, actually, from them. Like retired, whatever that means, right? Yeah. Not old enough to retire, but decided 20 years was enough in that because I had then launched our coffee shops, which I worked, with Medtronic and the coffee shops for 2 years. So basically I was like, okay, I can't continue to do both. What is it that brings me joy in life? And if you can find what brings you joy, you can find a way to make money at it. Right. I think that's why we need to encourage our kids to go in the direction of their giftedness, not just to get a degree.
I agree with you.
Not to pressure them to, not everybody's cut out to go to 4-year college. So if you can find out what you're passionate about and what you love to do, there are just endless possibilities of how to go to market with that and how to make money at it.
Yeah. I've got a little thing I've said probably multiple times on this show, but I say it all the time, especially in speeches. And it's the 4 Ps. Yeah. You must pray.
Yes.
Find your passion. Tie your passion to your purpose. And when your purpose is there, you'll get a paycheck.
Yep. That's true.
And I mean,
in that order.
And whenever the paycheck is a byproduct of who you are and what you're becoming and what you're doing and the impact you're having. Right. That's how people say you will work an entire lifetime and never felt like you'd worked a day in your life.
It's true.
And it is so true.
It is.
And for me, I'll be honest with you, whenever I've been so blessed to make sure that I guess I was in tune with what my heart really wanted. When I went in the military, I wanted to go in the military. I didn't feel like I had to do anything. So when I got out of the military and I went on got on the fire department, it was what I loved. I wanted to do. I thought about it, dreamed about it. Yeah. And I did that for almost 20 years.
Wow.
In Memphis. And then whenever I leave there, and then I started teaching, it was immediately a connection with the students. So everything has led me to this point, right? Yes. Podcasting, public speaking, and all of that comes natural because I recognize that it's not about me.
That's so true.
It is about the impact I'm having on others. And I say this all the time, and I know you agree because as a leader, you have to, I'll say this, if you're the appropriate leader, because there are leaders that are bad leaders, let me just be honest with that. But if you are the appropriate type of leader, your success is only seen through that of the success of others. Right. So when you're looking for personal accolades, a lot of times that person is in it for the wrong reasons, whatever that is. Right. And for whenever you are seeing growth in someone else because you realize that you are having an impact there, that's leadership.
It is. Well, I mean, if we live by the praises of man, if we live for the applause, we're going to die when it's not there.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's so true. It's the why behind the what.
It's 100% right. Yeah. So then I make some notes. So like I joke about this all the time, but recently I had one of my high school teachers on.
Oh, no.
And then she was able to validate what I was saying. She was with the Lambs ministry. Why am I drawing a blank? Well, I'll tell you why. I'm 51. She was just on recently. So Feed My Lambs ministry down in Walls. So she was one of my teachers in elementary school and then high school. And I said, well, I never did homework and did not do research when I was in school.
No.
But I'm grown up now, I think.
Yeah.
So I do that. And some of that was this.
Okay.
I wrote down here that you started Coffee Central in 2019. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And was that the one in South Haven?
South Haven's the first, yes.
And then how long was it after that you came down here to Hernando?
6 months.
Oh,
It was
so pretty quick.
Pretty quickly.
Pretty quick.
So Coffee Central was previously owned by some friends of ours we go to church with. They were going to close it because of life change. She was pregnant. He was traveling international. And we would go to Memphis to get really great coffee, acai bowls, all that. So I was like, why, first of all, am I taking all that commerce to Memphis? But also, too, I want to stay here at home. You know, I mean, we love here. And it was a safe space. My daughter went to school right down Getwell. And so she would come there and study. So we ended up buying it there, hence the name DeSoto Central, Coffee Central. So that's where the name originated.
I like it. Okay.
And my friend Kim Derryberry, who owned at the time Side Alley, we had just opened. I'm talking 2 days. She came in and she said, we want a coffee shop in Hernando and I want it to be in the front of my building and I want it to be you. And I'm like, whoa, like I know food and beverage. I love the hospitality industry. It's part of my gift. I just love that gift of hospitality. I think that's why I'm so drawn to this industry. Just loving people. But I said, I tell you what, you let me learn coffee. Like to do it well, do it excellent, and come back and see me in 6 months. Well, it was 6 months to the day she came back. So we put a little.
That's good.
Yeah,
that is really good.
We put a little storefront in the front glass, just a little bar, just a little coffee bar. That's all it was there. And so I was there a full year, and then I would always drive by 39 West Commerce Street, which is where we're located now. It was Ladybug at the time. For years, way before it was anything in the restaurant industry. And I was just like, I want to have something out of that house one day. You know, I still want to own it. So
it's funny you were being drawn to it.
Yeah. So plug to Jim Franks if he ever wants to sell. Like I really want to buy that house. We lease it right now. But I was always drawn to that space. And so long story short, COVID hit. Right. So we're in 2020. So we opened, ownership changed of it. And then in 2020, we were still in 50% occupancy. Everyone had to wear face masks, especially behind the counter in the kitchen. And we opened January 1st, 2021, which was still right in the middle of 50%. 50% shutdown. I think that's right. Yeah, that would be correct because we were October. So we started renovating. So it was 2021, January 1. And we opened with a packed house and we opened with everybody with face masks. I was putting people outside so we could, try to honor that social distancing and everything. But so. And then we've just been going strong in DeSoto County ever since.
I'm so glad that you bring in the conversation about COVID and that because if you have any version of food industry in particular, gyms. I'm trying to think of the different horrible. Businesses that really got hit impacted with COVID. Right. It's funny because it was about what you did. So Derek, my producer, he actually thrived during COVID because everything was shut down and he was in the production industry. So that was beneficial for a person like that. But for you, people in that, it had to be scary because here you are, you jump in with both feet. You do a thing that I like to refer to as cannonballing. Yeah. And you go in and you're like, now you've got two businesses and then here comes these shutdowns that nobody could predict.
Right.
I mean, there's people talk about preparation. You can prepare for you can have contingency plans.
Right.
Nobody had ever faced this.
Right. We actually we closed for, I think 3 months, close to 3 months at a smaller location in Hernando because of COVID. Like we just couldn't maintain both. So in that same time frame, just a few months later, now I'm looking at expanding and moving over. So it was people literally like, are you sure this is the right timing? Are you sure? And I was like, I just know, that's what faith is.
I was just about to ask you about
the
that.
The evidence of things not seen. So you don't see it, but I knew we were meant to be there because I wanted to have more space. I want to have more place for people to gather. Our mission is coffee and community. And now with our expansion into roasting, it's across cultures, around tables, of bringing people together and making meaningful connections. I mean, even if you don't drink coffee, you drink tea. And what do you do? I remember being a child and just pulling up to my grandmother's kitchen table with everybody drinking coffee and having a pastry and just talking and just enjoying life together. And so that was our goal in that. And we literally had to close, and we ran, me and about 3 of my team members, ran South Haven curbside service.
Really?
And I think that was part of what helped us. We actually thrived. We actually grew through COVID because people just wanted some sense of normalcy. Can I go to my local coffee shop and get a cup? I mean,
you're absolutely right.
South Haven shop, we had cars all over the parking lot. We would take coffee out to them and they would just sit there like 2 parking spots away and talk to one another.
People you're right. Not saying every single person on earth, but most people, they're social creatures. They want to be around other people. They want to have communication. That's important. That's mental healthy. It helps. And so you're right, that social aspect had been shut down in a way that the world had never seen. So obviously it was a lot of adjustment. You know, I had 2 questions here. Okay. I love this I do love this. When my guests are speaking right on point or a little step ahead of the things I had thought about, because it's perfect, because it means that I'm not too old yet. I'm thinking the way that I should think, right? That's what I'm telling myself. I'm like, I'm on point with this. This is good. That's good. So then the question would be, how much, this is what I was going to ask you, is how much did your faith play into seeing those potential tumultuous storms coming with COVID? And here it is, you have 2 businesses now, and the reality of foreclosure and not making enough money or being able to stay open is right there in front of you. That is that moment where people that don't have that faith inside of them, the ability to see beyond the moment, to recognize that there is a higher purpose, it's scary, and it leaves you hopeless and feeling like there's no chance. Clearly that was not the case with you. Can you talk about that?
I can. Well, if we build something, then we are contractually or whatever obligated to make sure it succeeds. But when God builds something and we're being obedient to what, like, I knew that these were things I was supposed to do spiritually. So I had the yes from God and the yes from my husband, and that's all I need. That's in that order too, right? In that order. And if I have that agreement, I feel like I can take on the world. And of course, we get wise counsel, and I've had some missteps along the way, no doubt. We're not perfect. But I knew that God called us to do it. And in the midst of all that, one of my friends, a friend now, was a customer at the time, came in and brought me this little notebook. And on the front of it, it says, "Remember why you started." And so why did we start? We started to be a place of coffee and community, a safe space for the students, a great place for the teachers, and then to expand to Hernando, to build vibrant community, you know, in that side yard with movie nights and stuff for the kids and things to do, and really great food. But specialty coffee was at my heart to bring to DeSoto County because we didn't have it, right? Yeah. So oftentimes, I mean, even recently, I'm like, Lord, this is your business, not mine. I am being obedient to run it the way you want me to run it, and I'm going to leave the results to you. So I'm going to do daily what I know to do. What I know to do, even when it's difficult decisions. But at the end of the day, I mean, I just have to leave the results to the Lord. You know what? This is, man, that's beautifully said. It's almost as though you should be a minister. Oh, well. We're going to get there in a minute. We're going to get there in a minute. So this is funny then. You may or may not know this little fun fact. I like to throw in fun facts if that's all right. So you just mentioned about how community socializing and having a spot that bring people together. I don't know if you know this or not. So when Derek, the producer, SRP, my guy now for over 2 years for podcasting and stuff, when he came across my material and wanted to meet with me, guess where we met for our very first meeting ever? Coffee Central. On the patio. On the patio. I love it. Can you believe that? I believe it. Can you see the circle in life here? I do. You know, we've had four of our team members, 3 for sure, who have met their spouse through their either work coworker or through a customer and are now married, some with kids and moved on, or just, you know, we've had people that met for the first time at Coffee Central, proposed at Coffee Central, and it's been part of their lives. So, you know, that brings me so much joy to know that, you know, I've always thought that at the end of the day, if for some unforeseen reason we had to close our doors, would we have had the kind of impact that people notice that we're missing? Yes. Would people know that you are no longer there? That would say that we would have had impact. If people would miss you and know that you were gone. If you just close your doors and something else moves in and, you know, it's no big deal, then I would question why we had done anything for any reason. You know, it may have been done for my own glory, not for the betterment of our community. You know, as a coach, and it's not just a gimmicky name. I'm like a real coach, right? So I coach sports for over almost 30 years now. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I relish is, and I really appreciate, is knowing that there are moments on a ball field that can change a player's
complete trajectory forever in just a moment. See, we'll play a lot of games. You won't remember scores. You won't remember outcomes a lot of times. The situations are just a glimpse in time, and it goes. But there'll be a moment, a staple moment, or a feeling that you'll have, and that will change your perspectives. So and I've seen that so many times where a person wanted to pitch, but they really didn't pitch. So I start working with them. I give them a moment on a field. They have a successful moment. And then I find out 4 years later, they're pitching for their high school. That's a real story. And so those kind of things, it's like when you get to play a role in a forever memory, that's huge. You have so many forever memories just from what you just told me at your place. That makes it significant. Now, I want to add one more layer to this because I'm big on ripple effect, the whole drop a pebble in and you ever see how far it goes, how many people you touch. I'm not saying this is me. This is not about me. It's not about me, but this is relevant. Derek and I meet. I have no idea about podcasting. I never listened to a podcast in my life. Wow. Never. I didn't. I knew of them, but I didn't listen to them and I didn't know how to do one. That's amazing. After we talk and meet, he's like, you do realize you have a gift with people. And I said, well, I've come to realize that I know how to relate to people through my coaching years, through being on a fire department and seeing people in their worst, lowest moments, being able to counsel them. Yeah, I think that there are some tools built in. I agree. He says, you need to be behind a mic. You need a podcast. And I said, I don't know anything about that. He goes, well, we're going to work toward that. And I think you're going to see why you need to be there. Now, since then, I have had so many people contact me that were dealing with depression, that had been through addiction, that had felt like they had no hope in life, that they were suicidal. And one of the podcasts, because we've had over 100 podcasts now with guests from all backgrounds, somebody will contact me and be like, this episode changed everything for me. And I just want you to know how much it meant. And what I realize is that meeting on your porch started that small pebble down the hill.
You gonna make me cry.
Girl, I do sometimes, but I cry too.
That's awesome. I love to hear those stories.
I want you to know that it is so much bigger than us. And what you're doing has a purpose. And had you not followed that path and you had not had that Coffee Central, and then Derek didn't know about that and he didn't come across my path, we wouldn't be sitting down here in SRP right now together probably.
Right, exactly.
That's God's plan.
It is. It's his plan rolling out.
I'm going to be honest with you. Last night, my wife comes in. She's very despondent. And I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, I hit a deer. And I'm like, are you okay? She's like, yes. I go out, good bit of damage on the car. And she and my daughter were leaving this morning to go out to Arkansas somewhere. And she's frustrated. She's aggravated by it. But I said, no, now this is faith. I'm saying this for real. This is real. This is real time happening. Yes. I said, I feel like God did that because maybe he's protecting you from something that might have happened if you'd have left at the time you thought you needed to leave. Now you got to get a rental car. You got a couple bumps in the road, but you're still going to make your trip. Yeah. You don't know what he just protected you from.
That's true.
I'm just saying. True. And that is where faith comes in.
That is. It's so true. We've got to be willing to, in the ups and downs, whether it's the economy or it's COVID or it's seasons of life, we've just got to really learn to embrace the now and where we're at now. And, what is God doing in the now? Because his thoughts are so much larger than ours. His purpose is so much bigger for all people. And so how can we have that? One of our core principles at Coffee Central is, to be the happiest place for coffee on the planet. And it's not a fake it till you make it moment. It is, we really do, I feel like a good job in recruiting and hiring people who love to serve people. Because I can teach you coffee. I can't teach you personality. I can't teach you passion. I can't teach you genuine love for people. But if I can find those right people and I can find that in them, then we can train, we can equip. If we can just draw out, a lot of times in a coffee industry, it's people's first jobs. And I want it to be a platform where they remember and they know and they had such an incredible experience. It just sets them up for their next. And so whether it's one of our team members or a customer coming in, we just feel such an entrustment with people in general.
Hey, look, whenever you are teaching a job that requires you to interact with public and have public service, that's a tough job to have, but it puts a lot of soft skill tools in place that you can't get in a classroom, right? So you can't go take, how to deal with people 101. You kind of got to get out there and do that, right? So one of the jobs that I've had friends of my own that talked about that really helped them when they were young was Chick-fil-A, working at Chick-fil-A. The structure there.
They're the standard. They're the industry standard.
I know, right? Yeah. So just using them as an example, but it's so true, right? So you end up becoming or you get influenced by the things that you surround yourself with. And whenever you surround yourself with people that expect excellence and they give you a path and they show you how to achieve that excellence, it does build those layers that you need for later in life. And so what you're doing where you're at is the same thing. I wrote down some notes here. So let me see if I can get to this next thing. I don't have my glasses on, so work with me for a minute. It says here, I wrote down, you have Tina Tatum Ministries, and you are the owner of Ethnos Coffee?
Ethnos, yes.
Is that right?
It is.
And what is that? Talk to me about that.
Oh my gosh, it is our current passion project.
Okay.
So actually October of last year, so we're 1 year, we acquired Ethnos. Ethnos means people, groups, or nations in Greek or Latin. And so whenever we began Coffee Central, about 4 years into it, we realized we wanted to begin to roast for ourselves. Just for ourselves was our only thought. Let's import, let's source, let's figure out how to do some direct trade. So it was just like the next logical step for us in coffee. So we've been in it 4 years. And then our good friend Kenny Baker, who owned Ethnos, we were their customer. So here's the cool thing. We started out as a cafe that purchased from all the local coffee roasters. So when we stepped into roasting coffee, like we didn't step in as competition, because I never do. I step in as completion. What can I do to complete this industry, this environment? You know, that one's hand, one's a foot, whatever. So we acquired Ethnos. Kenny got an opportunity to go to LA and pursue a dream he had. So we didn't just take a little step and buy a little roaster that we could put in the corner. No, we had to go buy a whole entire business with a Loring. You wouldn't know what that is.
Cannonballing again.
Yeah, the cannonballing again. Like look, my team and my husband are like, don't you have enough to do? Why do you just have to keep going for the next, you know? But I'm just hardwired that way. I get bored easily. I think it's, my daughter says it's undiagnosed ADHD.
I think you just have really good coffee.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Coffee and Jesus, I can run on anything. But and also, I've been told undiagnosed ADHD, but it's okay. So we acquired Ethnos, and with a book of business, so we import, we roast, and then we wholesale distribute. So we have the Memphis Zoo, Turntable Coffee. We're our own biggest customer. So Ethnos, we roast our own coffee, and then we supply both of our Coffee Central locations. We supply about a dozen coffee shops in the region. In the area, we have an online subscription program where you can order coffee, have it delivered to your home every month or every week, however often you want to do that. But when we came into it, I began to say, what is going to make us different in a very male-dominated world in coffee as far as roasting
Is that really?
goes?
Is that it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'll be honest, I had no idea about that. Didn't find that in my notes.
Yeah.
I would have guessed different.
Yeah, no.
I would have thought it would be.
On the roasting and import side.
Interesting.
So coffee shops, cafes are a whole different thing. So that's the consumerism side of it.
Okay.
Where, our end consumer is the person that comes in and buys the cup of coffee, where our partners are those who are running their own local coffee shops.
Interesting.
Okay. So we have partners, and our ultimate customer is whoever's going to consume Ethnos coffee. So that's Ethnos coffee in your cup.
It's delicious.
That is a imported Brazil that has been barrel aged in Old Dominic barrels for 4 weeks, and then we roast it. So you're drinking the salted maple bourbon coffee today.
And I'm going to name this Andressa. That was our foreign exchange student that we had from Brazil.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Andressa drink.
Perfect. So we wanted to see what sets us apart as a roaster, because we've been in a very short period of time, only in coffee for 5 years. That's not a super long time to be in an industry.
No, it's not.
So we are specialty grade coffee. Let me just give you a quick rundown of what that is. We're not commodity coffee. So we are not community coffee. We are not Folgers. We are not even Starbucks. We are specialty grade. We are regulated by the SCA, Specialty Coffee Association, which means they're all, it's organic. But a lot of the farms, if you know about getting stamped organic or gluten-free or anything, there's a lot of cost associated with getting those.
Yeah, that's why it's always more expensive.
Yeah. But they can be gluten-free or they can be organic. They just may not be stamped so. But anyway, so specialty coffee is hand-picked. So coffee is the seed of a cherry. If you don't know that, we should have a whole coffee episode. But anyway, it's the seed of a cherry that is hand-picked. If you have a holly bush out in your yard,
I do.
It's not stickery. Coffee plant's not stickery, but those little red, cherries,
little beads that come up.
Whatever they're called. Whatever they're called. But that's much of what a coffee cherry looks like. So it's harvested by hand, no chemically alterations. So there's a lot of guidelines. So they can have one or less defects in a 165-pound bag. that we get in. And we do a lot of direct trade. So we try to put money back in the pockets of the farmers. And, we're not buying on the scale of Starbucks. We're not buying. So that's, Starbucks, Dunkin', all that. That's not our competition. We are our own competition. We want to provide specialty grade coffee, a unique experience within DeSoto County specifically, and now Memphis. So what set us apart in that was that I am the only 100% female owned coffee roaster.
Wow.
Yeah. I won't say coffee shop, coffee roaster, 100% female owned. So
is that in America?
No, Memphis.
Oh, Memphis. Okay.
No,
I didn't know how big we were.
Yeah, no. Well, we're getting there.
I would not have doubted it. I was down with it. I'm like, but still, that's great. Memphis
we have
area.
to tell the truth. So, but anyway, so we have now established a female farmed line where we're doing, because we got to give back everything we do, right?
Sure.
We have to give back to our community. It's just we're not just consumers. Right. If we're not being a producer that's producing life, that's producing community, that's producing really great product for the consumers, then, what are we doing? We're not here just to consume.
Yeah.
So we began down this path of determining some female farms that we were already doing business with, brought on another one. So we are encouraging and empowering women specifically in part of our business model. Not all of our farms are female, but in one line of our business model of from farm to cup, this complete supply chain is female empowered.
I had written that down. I read something about that, and I'm like, I didn't know what that meant, but now you've cleared it up.
So your farmers, your producers, those who are exporting to us receiving it in, to Molly, who is our female roaster, and working with Sean Thigpen. He's our lead roaster, and he does, the majority of the other roasting. She focuses on the female farm lines. And then we partner with an organization in Memphis specifically because we are a 901 roaster. That's where our roaster is in Memphis, Arlington specifically. We wanted to give back a portion of that back to women. So we've partnered with an organization called Sista to Sista. It's in Binghamton. They have drop-in centers and a safe house. Part of our background is we had a nonprofit called R3 The Movement, which helped to reach, rescue, and redeem people out of human trafficking, because my husband had FBI background. So that all worked out. It's a whole nother podcast probably. But so my heart was always...
We're up to 4 already.
I know, right? Oh, Derek, I need my own podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
I think
kidding.
you would do great. You got that talk thing down too, girl.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm probably
you're good. No,
probably dominating the conversation.
You're making my life easy.
Okay, thanks. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah,
make your life easy. But anyway, so we give back. So our heart has always been to help women off the street. They're not a prostitute; they've been prostituted. That people have infinite value. So from farm to cup, then we give back $1 of every bag sold out of our white label, our white bags. So that's our female farmed initiative. We're supporting, farms. The 3 farms right now are in China, Yunnan, China, Brazil, and Guatemala. So those 3 farms are completely female farm produced and all that. And then we roast it, give it back, and then we're giving back into this nonprofit. So that's just part of it. That's what sets us apart as being a female roaster. But what sets us apart in the industry is that we are specialty grade coffee. Like we buy Q1 quality grade coffee, and we pay a great percent more for our import and for our beans than what you would get just if you're grabbing a cup of Joe, at McDonald's or anywhere else like that. Our coffee is a little more expensive because people have value. So throughout this entire supply chain, and then we have roasters that we are paying to profile, to roast, to be educated to do that, all the way down to the baristas in our shops. Like there's an extensive amount of training that goes into it. So I remember when we first opened, it's kind of funny, we first opened at Hernando, and an older gentleman came in. He was like, $3 for a cup of coffee. What is this? So I just did this quick 2-minute rundown from farm to cup. And then I had the joy of explaining to him why that cup should probably really cost him $30.
And what did he say? Thank you for 3.
But I did let him know in a most gracious way that we're not for everybody, but McDonald's has a really good $1 cup of coffee. And if that's what you want, then that's great, because I think the best coffee of all is the coffee the way you love it. But there's so much intentionality. There's so much human effort put into specialty grade coffee, from your latte art all the way back to the cherry seed that is planted in a foreign nation and harvested, because America does not produce coffee. We're not a coffee producing nation.
Yeah.
The climate's not correct. So it has to be imported. It has to come in those cargo freight liners, across the ocean, to get to us. So there's a lot of expense involved.
I've had some coffee from Jamaica, from the Blue Mountain range. That was pretty good. So it is always about the climate.
It is.
It does. And so like 5 things. Can we talk about the ADDs, girl?
Let's do it.
Oh, I got the ADDs too. I got them. They all in different. So you hit on so many great topics here. So this one is comedic, not comedic, but it is real. I'm really wondering. So have you ever had the coffee from, and I don't know what those little tree animals are, but they poop out the seeds?
Oh my God.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. No, I would never drink that coffee.
I was just curious about that one. So it's like, I remember
or
seeing.
mushroom coffee. No,
it was
not
like
into it.
I don't know, maybe it was Adam Zimmerman or something. It was one of those weird food things. And
no thanks.
I was just curious about that. So it's like expensive too to get that, because they'll harvest that out of the poop. But anyways, there's that one. There's that
I digress.
one.
Yeah.
Yes. So back to the other part. So you have clearly found a passion. Before you went down this road, because maybe you hit it and I just missed it. What was the light bulb moment for coffee? I mean, it's like, did you have a cup of coffee one day and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
I can connect with this?
Yeah. What I connected with was connecting with community.
Okay.
So when Coffee Central, I was a customer of Coffee Central before I owned and operated it. And it was a place that we would meet. I would meet with, other moms. Our kids were in school. I would have business meetings there. We'd have Bible studies. We would just a place where I could go between meetings. I have a few minutes between here and there. So I'd plop down there, and it was just a safe space. And it was always so welcoming, so inviting. And it wasn't a full service restaurant. I didn't have to go in and feel awkward about sitting there and just getting a cup of coffee and scrolling through my phone, waiting on something else to do. No one was pressuring me to buy anything, even though I always support if you go in and please, if you're at a table for 2 hours on the internet, please buy more than a $3 cup of coffee. We have lunch and breakfast. Anyway, I connected with community, and coffee is a resource. Right. It's a resource to connect people. But because I had my background in, food service, that it just seemed like
so many of those roads crossed together and made sense.
And I love coffee. Like I really do. Like we would go to Memphis, we would go to other specialty coffee shops, take my daughter. And I was like, gosh, I'm spending so much gas and so much money going out of South Haven. And so we wanted to see, we went down the path of when we wanted to acquire it, is we flipped the whole model of what it looked like. I mean, it just looks dramatically different. But then I thought, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. So we went in, and our roaster at the time came in and trained us, explained everything from farm to cup to, how we steam milk, about how much, air goes into the milk makes a difference, and how it breaks down the proteins in milk. I mean, we just went into a deep dive into learning coffee and then educating our team to do the same. So that's pretty much it. It began over community, and then coffee was just a great way to connect to community. You
may have covered that earlier, but it's just like it got lost somewhere in the conversation in my mind, because I was thinking, you are so passionate. And, it's like this, not just doing something, but learning about something. So if you are passionate about the thing that you're learning about, you cannot get enough. It's insatiable. No. It's like you constantly want to know the next thing. And I will give me as the example on some of this. Whenever I got into EMS, all right, so full disclosure, I'm actually not that smart. Okay, I have common sense, I like to think, and I'm savvy, but I don't think that I'm very academically driven. But when you find something that you love, you can't study it enough, and so the byproduct of that is you just really get to know it. Right. And that was the same thing with paramedic. It's like I couldn't read enough. I couldn't know enough. Right. Part of it was I was also scared I would kill somebody if I didn't know what I was doing. There's that. But the other side was like, man, it's so fascinating and how the body works and what you can do to stave off a problem in a moment. And so that felt really good. So I see the same passion with you in coffee. Now, the thing that is not lost on me, and I want you to refute this if you don't agree. Okay. I have had so many people come on my show that they have found that passion in their life, and different things brought them to it. Last week I had Miss Jenny Frederickson on. Well, it wasn't last week according to how this thing's being taped, but recently I had Miss Jenny Frederickson, and she had some changes in her body, and she wasn't sure about how these things work, and she had a medical background. So that's what prompted her to go into women's health. And so that has driven her. Now she has this really thriving business in South Haven that people just love her. And man, she's had such a great response from people on that show. That said, I've also seen this connection. I've had several guests come on that had drug or alcohol addiction in the past. And what I have found is when they've come out of that on the other side, they realize what that addiction did to them and how much they were driven to do the bad things, the wrong choices. And it's almost like that was ingrained in them. So now when they find the better path, That same enthusiasm is there, but man, are they productive. I use that only to say this, Miss Tina. Mm-hmm. Somebody out there right now is in that low spot, because I realize people see this all over the world. And I want you to understand something. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is, or what you've been through. But if you find yourself in a spot right now, you don't see self-worth. You don't think you can break free of these chains right now. I want you to know, not only can you break free of these chains, if you are struggling with something right now, it's alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be gambling, you name it. Those addictions, your body has this empty void. It is craving something to be pushed towards a higher purpose.
Yes.
I'm telling you, when you break free of those chains and you find that purpose in your life, the sky is beyond the limit. You guys, I'm telling you, so many folks have sit across from me, and what they've been able to do with their lives after those storms is incredible.
Right.
But the drive, you have the drive.
Yes.
You're not waiting for something to happen. You're out there doing things, making things happen. So with all that, I do have to ask you this, and I'll probably let you into some things you want to say.
Okay, let's do it.
But here's what I got to ask you this, because when I read across this, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I need you to explain it to me. It says you were the former state prayer leader for the state of Mississippi at Reformation Prayer Network. What is that?
Yeah. Okay. So let me step that back one notch. So for 10 years, I coordinated National Day of Prayer across DeSoto County.
Oh.
So it was just in my heart to, prayer is so important. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, right? Seek my face, turn from their wicked ways. Basically the Lord promises he'll heal our land. And so it just really became a real passion of mine through, Alan and I are both ordained ministers. Yes, a female can be ordained. No, so I don't mean to wreck anybody's theological world, but anyway, we'll jump over that. But anyway, so National Day of Prayer came through on that. So Cindy Jacobs is the founder of Reformation Prayer Network. And so basically she has an organization that's in every state of the nation. And we just did take objectives that were needed. Say the presidential election is coming up, pandemic, hurricanes, whatever it is. And they would send out notifications to all their state prayer leaders. And then we were called to mobilize people in prayer, whether it was through churches or individual prayer groups and things like that as boots on the ground. And it may have been state specific. So say if they're this is predates when I did this, but it just comes to mind like when the LA riots happened way back. So LA would have been like a really focal point of that. Or when Katrina hit, our coast, there was a lot of need there. So wouldn't it be great to know that the entire nation has specific prayer targets that they're looking at to pray and to connect together and to mobilize not only in prayer, but people, time, and resources to those locations that are needed. So that's what I did for several years. I was just basically a connector in
How did you get that spot? How did they come to know Tina?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think through National Day of Prayer and then just me being involved. Here's the thing too. People, when we opened Coffee Central, I'm going to relate the two. When we opened Coffee Central and we had 100 people show up for ribbon cutting when we very first opened, we couldn't fit in the building. They were spilled out everywhere. People were like, where in the world do you know this many people? I was like, I don't know, but I do know that I have sown. I've gone and celebrated other people. I've been there for other ribbon cuttings. I've been there for people. I've connected in the community. I've been be a part of your community, right? Be a part. And then when you have something, you build it, they'll come, right? It's a law of sowing and reaping. It's karma. It's whatever you want to call it. So I had just been involved. So if there were opportunities for prayer, so then I was contacted by so we had a prayer initiative going on in the state, and the former prayer leader was stepping down. And so she recommended that I would be that position. I think just after a long tenure of being involved in prayer for our state and for DeSoto County, I was asked to do that. So I did that for a couple of years.
That's awesome. Yeah. I guess I'm assuming you're still a part of that.
Yeah, well, I still probably am not the state leader anymore on it. Seasons change or whatever, but I still get the email. So I'm still part of the prayer initiatives because I really do believe prayer changes things.
I've witnessed miracles.
Yes.
And, it was not too long ago, a person was talking to me and it was tongue in cheek, but it wasn't at the same time. It's those moments where you make a side comment and maybe you mean something about it, maybe you don't, but you could probably read between the lines.
Yeah.
And they were like, I wonder why we don't see miracles today, like the parting of the Red Sea. And I said, well, we kind of do. You just aren't looking in the right places.
That's exactly right.
And, I've witnessed some stuff, and I could go down a long road. I won't right now, but my dad, he absolutely was a miracle. We asked for more time, but I did it in a sense of his will.
Yes.
And he went from, and I'm a paramedic and been one for a long time. and I understood where we were in that moment.
Right.
And there was no way I saw a path to health, period. Period. There's a whole long story on that I'll say for another time. But in 24 hours, after heavy prayer, complete turnaround, a week later, my dad came home.
Wow.
That's what I saw was a miracle.
Absolutely.
I witnessed it.
Absolutely.
In front of me.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Here we are. We're getting close to the end. Look, I could have you on every week, honestly speaking, Tim. It's easy conversations. And not everybody feels comfortable speaking into a mic or have a camera. We can have conversations off to the side, and then we get in here, and then sometimes it's just like, I ask a question. Yes. Okay, let me ask another one. Let's see what we got in here.
Yeah, exactly.
So whenever I have somebody that's a smooth, easy thought process talker, I could have conversation forever. My wife would say, yes, please keep him down there at the studio all day. We've had all those conversations at the house.
We have so many words.
I know.
I want to speak into that too, because as a little girl, my dad called me Mouth of the South. I never met a stranger. He would have adults. You know how it was back in the day. They would all come over, show up on Sunday afternoon, have coffee, whatever. I would climb up in the chair and I would just carry on conversations with them. I thought I was right about, and my parents encouraged me in that. So, those little girls or little boys who are loud and who have a lot to say.
Big personalities.
Big personalities, don't quiet those. Help guide and nurture that, I mean, they may be your next, president. They may be your next firefighter. They may be your next one's responding to, God forbid, another 911 that's going to lead a campaign to do something really great.
Yeah.
So I was never shut down. I was never told to be quiet. Well, I probably was, but
not necessarily in a bad way, right?
Yeah. So I could talk to a brick wall. My husband knows this. So he's literally like, we went on a trip the other week for our anniversary. We took the Rocky Mountaineer.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. We went 25 years.
Oh, wow.
So we went out west, took a train all the way out west. And his first thing was like, okay, you can know somebody in the Memphis airport. But if we go and you know somebody in Colorado or whatever springs we went to in Moab, I'm going to fall off my rocker, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not that I know everybody, but I genuinely love people. I love to see and hear the stories of what God's doing in their life. And so we'll encourage that, just move where your natural giftedness is, and you won't be striving in what you're trying to do in life,
That's so true. And the impact you're going to have in other people's lives doing that, giving them courage, motivation, to pursue those same things. Look, right now, there's probably somebody, there's no telling how many different demographics you've hit today talking, but I can assure you one thing that I know, because I've seen this come back and forth when it comes to entrepreneurs, somebody out there was thinking about something and they've had a lot of trepidation.
Yeah.
And our conversation today probably gave them the courage that they needed to move forward. So that part's awesome. Well, we are getting close to the finish line, but there are a few last things I want to ask real quick. One, if Tina disappeared tomorrow, do you have a legacy behind that you would like people to remember you of?
Well,
that's a big one.
That's a big question.
It's big. I say my last two big ones for
it's our epitaph, right? It's that dash.
It is the dash. The two numbers meant nothing. The dash is everything.
Right. I would want to be known as someone who brought joy, and that was a really great wife and mother. And so those are the things. I want my children, my daughter, and Alan has a son. He's my son too. And in New York, I want to have established them in the joy of the Lord and of their calling, and that they can do anything that they set their hearts to do. It's more important to me to be known as not as a businesswoman, not as an entrepreneur, because really, the Lord is our source. All these other things are resources. And if we keep that in order, and we're rooted and grounded in that, I just want to be known and remembered by someone who brought joy, who genuinely loved people and made a difference in her community.
I love that. And you know what? I think that is living bigger than yourself. And that's what it's all about, my friends. Last thing, and this one is for all of my listeners out there. As a person that has had a lot of experiences, been down a lot of roads, been through some storms, been through some celebratory calm waters. All of these things together matter, because now you have a great perspective. Right. What would be the last final word you would share with my listeners, something you would give them?
Wow, that's a big question too.
I told you I finished with two. These are the grand finales. It's like the big fireworks and then the big fireworks.
So you hit on something that I didn't really speak into, and it was if someone was at their lowest low, right?
Okay, yeah.
On that, I didn't really get to speak into that. But I would like to encourage anyone that if you have breath in your lungs, you have purpose. And it doesn't matter, what you've gone through. It matters more what you do after you fail.
Amen.
I think it's more of a testimony of a man's value and worth self-worth and of a woman's is when you hit hardship, when you've hit addiction or divorce. God may hate divorce, but he doesn't hate divorced people. He hates what divorce does to his children, right? So all these things, if we've hit prison or whatever the issue is, your value is found in one, as you have infinite value because you're created in the image of God. But also, too, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now?
It's what you do next.
Yeah, right. So it's what you do next. So know that your next is always greater than your past, right? Your next always has purpose. It always has intent. And then there's always opportunity. There's so many resources I think we're not aware of. So if someone is at their rock bottom and they don't know, reach out. Don't be afraid to be that voice. I used to have a mentor that told me when I was 20 and I was negotiating these major multi-million-dollar contracts. I was 100 pounds, platinum blonde, 1990. Here's one thing he would say to me, and this has always stuck with, and it's not from a biblical perspective, but he was like, Tina, ask for the sky. Like, they can't eat you. Like, they can't, they're not going to kill you for asking. So we have not because we ask not. We need to ask for help.
Yeah.
Like, it is not weakness to ask for help. It is actually strength because I recognize I can't do it alone. Like, we need one another. We're created for that koinonia, for that community, created to do life together. So if there's anyone out there that's struggling with that, maybe they don't know their next steps in business, find a mentor, right? We all need a Paul and a Timothy. We need someone so pouring into us, and then we need to be pouring into others. So it doesn't matter if you've been clean one day. Man, let's celebrate that. Or if you've been clean from cocaine like I have now for 28 years.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
So, there's always purpose in our pain because God wastes nothing.
That's right. You're getting tools put in the toolbox that you can't see at that time. You don't realize that it's there until later in life. And then you look back and you're like, man, without those experiences, I would not be equipped at this moment to handle this or to help this other person.
Right. We don't like the pain, right?
No, nobody does.
Pain and adversity are the gifts no one wants.
Look, we always try to, that's our nature, take the path of least resistance. That's what everybody does, right? But it's whenever you choose to keep battling and keep fighting.
But the flowers don't grow on the mountaintops. They grow in the valleys. So it's oftentimes when we're walking through those valleys. It's true. Only shadows of death. But we walk through those. I tell when I counsel with women who are struggling with addiction or whatever and just, white knuckling it through things. I remember this being said to me is, do you want the short pain or the long pain? Do you want the easy fix, right? Which is going to create a longer pain, or do you want the real deep down things that we need to dig in, get out of our lives so they're not our filters for the rest of our lives, and let that be the short pain, the deep dive work that needs to be done in our hearts and in our minds so that we can then be productive members of society. We'll be better wives, mothers, friends, all those things, because all of life flows out of our heart. So it's a matter of having those deep areas healed before, even having a right perspective about money and commerce. Some people were raised in an aspect of money doesn't grow on trees or coming out of the Great Depression or whatever. We have a wrong mindset. So when we get healed on the inside and get a right mindset and our minds renewed, it just sets us up for success, even if we have missteps along the way.
And I think that's the key too, is you're going to have missteps. People are going to go through tough times. Being equipped to handle that tough time is what's going to be able to see you through to the next step. And honestly, I'll be honest, Absolutely. Look, right now, Miss Tina, you've probably, I think you've covered the full spectrum of what Coach Camp loves to talk about. We have hit so many amazing things, but I feel like we could have so many more conversations. Well, we are at the end of this episode, but I'm looking forward to the future where we're going to go next. I feel like you and I will be connected for the indefinite future. You're DeSoto County and you're Hernando. You're right up the road. I'm down here. Coach Camps, we're going to do stuff.
Let's do it.
Continue to hit the road. Be a positive light. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out. And I want to thank you, my listeners, for tuning in, for sending messages, for being such a positive source. And to be honest with you, to be the reason why this platform even exists. So continue to tune in each and every week. Go to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com, and subscribe to my YouTube. Until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out.